You can only be considered a complete student of knowledge if you learn Fusha Arabic, and that goes without a doubt. Because if you ask the average Muslim on the street or anywhere, would you like to learn Arabic or become a student of knowledge? They'll tell you yes, but they just don't know where to start. They don't have time, and they just don't know where to find a teacher. If someone sent you a letter and they were a billionaire, and in that letter they were telling you, you can just get this secret reward from me that I only want you to get, but it's in a different language. How would you feel not knowing that language, but knowing that that person is a billionaire and they may be giving you some sort of reward because you can see like the numbers and everything there? It would make you feel kind of ashamed because you want that reward. So you would go and learn the language to get that. When it comes with Allah, and with Allah is the greatest example, the Quran has so many blessings in it that you are just not fully attentive of because you just don't know the Arabic language. So what I have right here is a vocabulary booklet and a rough booklet. In this vocabulary booklet, it contains all of the Arabic words for a specific category or subject. And I'll show you what's in these in a moment, okay? But that will be, for example, all of the words containing or relating to travel, all of the words relating to food. That's in this neat, organized book. And then I also have a rough booklet, which contains all of the words that I'm learning for the first time revolving around the topic. So if I'm learning about food for the first time with my teacher, he may give me some extra notes about when, the type of context that this is being used in, or he will give me some sort of information on how this word can be used to create emphasis, just more details on the words. So why am I not going straight into this? It's because I want to tell you about a very interesting story. So when I was 16, and this is really cringy, I was learning Japanese. Now, we've all been at some sort of cringy stage at one point, but I was learning Japanese phrases and Japanese in general. The kind of phrases that I was learning was words like Genki desu ka, Ohayo gozaimasu, sumimasen. Okay, very, very cringy. Going back to the story, while I was learning Japanese, I was also practicing by speaking to myself, having my own conversations, and then also listening to people speaking the language. And this is really important for Arabic as well, because what people are doing for some reason is they're taking their vocabulary from anywhere and everywhere. What I mean by this is, for example, if you go into a shop and you aren't going food shopping, you aren't going clothes shopping, you're going everywhere shopping, it's going to be hard for your budget. You're going to have to think about the logistics, how you're going to be able to carry and transport everything back to your home. And you're going to have to think about what things to actually get. Because if you're getting everything and anything, you're not going to really think about how all of these factors that I've just mentioned. You're going to go in the shop, spend a ridiculous amount of money, and not even be able to carry the things that you really need from that shop at that time. It's like that with learning Arabic. When you're learning from anywhere, you're not focused on one specific topic, so you don't master that completely. You have knowledge gaps. And so your brain takes in all of this information and then it doesn't store it completely. And I'm not talking about if you live in a Muslim country or a country where they're all speaking Arabic and you're hearing all of these new words. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone that goes online and they're jumping from one dars to another dars to another dars. They're not sticking to one. So this is why it is so important. Let's start off with the rough jotter. Any new information that I learn, it will be here first. So a recent topic that I had just finished covering was the topic of traveling. And so I would write down all of these new words when it came to traveling. And then from there, I would try and write it into my neat jotter. So now if I open up the topic of traveling, I actually couldn't find the travel section because this thing is so rough, but I did find the Hajj section. But the travel section is in here. As you can see here, I have all of these words that I have learnt in relation to Hajj that are useful. For example, halaqa, which is the third person past tense verb for he cut. Like, for example, well, not cut, but shaved. So that's in relation to a person who goes to Hajj and then they shave their head. And then also words related to Hajj also blended into words relating to prayer. So it's not always one specific topic that you're stuck to. For example, qasr, shortening. That can be used for if you're talking about shortening your prayers. And then also I have other words on this side in relation to more of the principles or the rites of Hajj. For example, we have al-wuqufu bi-Arafah, al-wuqufu bi-Arafah, the standing or when you're actually at Arafah for that period of time. And then we also have, let me check more words, yadbahu. So actually when you're offering the sacrifice, that would be he is offering his sacrifice or he is sacrificing that specific animal for Hajj. That's more accurate. And then also Muzdalifah, which is one of the rites of Hajj, and just more of these words that I have been learning during this time. But then also occasionally I will learn a word from my Sheikh while he is speaking. For example, Nahu, which was grammar. I actually didn't know that previously, but yeah, I know it now. So I'm covering this section right now, so I'm not the best at it, as it's literally something I'm working on right now, practicing it. But going on to the NEAT folder, the NEAT booklet, I have this topic here in detail now. So once I've learnt it from here, I've gone to the dars, I've came back, then I put it into here. This is stage 2, and there are more stages that will come on that will be apparent in the future, inshallah. So now I have written the words that I've learned in total for this section. And I think I have one more lesson in this section of Hajj. So as you can see here, there are lots of words here. For example, Mina, which is one of the places that you go in Hajj. We have the points of the sun right here. So we have Shuruq shams, we have Zawal, Zawal shams. Shuruq shams is like, for example, Duha time. Zawal shams is like, for example, Dhuhr time. And then Ghurub shams is Maghrib time. So it's just making it easier for myself. But I wouldn't write it in English because then I'm cheating by just looking at it. I want to actively recall the words that I'm learning. So I use pictures to aid me in helping. So now these words are in your short-term memory, but we want it in the long-term memory. So how do we do that? Well, obviously I'm going to be talking about Anki here, but before that, you're already using this technique. It's the spaced repetition technique. Now, how this works, let me give you an example. When you pray your 5 daily salah, when you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, that recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha is very good. Why is it very good? Because you're reciting it constantly. When you first learned Surah Al-Fatiha, it wasn't the best. But as time went on, as you had to recite it 17 times a day, spaced out throughout the day, it became solid in your brain very quickly, to the point where now you can recite Surah Al-Fatiha in your sleep. That is the example of the spaced repetition technique. That is where you're using this technique. You're using your active recall, active memory to remember certain information over a period of time, and it compounds. For example, you learn the word waraqatun, which is paper. As time goes on, let's say after 10 minutes, you try and recall that in your brain. Waraqatun. After 2 hours or 3 hours or 5 hours, you try and recall it again. Waraqatun. And then after 1 day, 4 days, 10 days, it continues. But doing this manually, just for all of these tons of words that you've learned right now, let's say you've learned maybe 20 words, or you've learned 1,000 words, or you've learned 5,000 words. You can't just keep doing this for every single one. You have to have a structured program or structured application to be able to do this, which is where Anki comes in. Now, why is Anki so good? Because you can import all of your words that you've learned as time goes on for each topic in individual folders. So, for example, my Hajj section, I've imported some of the words, not all of them, because I'm still covering this section in my Anki. Now, why is this so profound? Why is this so good? Because when you're using active recall in conversations, it practices your speaking skills. When you're using active recall with Anki, it's practicing your recalling skills, but not necessarily your speaking skills, which is why having a community is important. But before I get into that, let me just show you how to use Anki first. Assalamu alaikum. So this is Anki just here, this Algo app flashcards. But you just search Anki on Google Play Store or on Apple App Store, and it's free, by the way. You don't get the paid one. So you just click open. The top right corner, you'll see a plus icon. You click that, and then you press new folder. Then you can type, for example, Arabic. Then you can create your first deck. So I'm going to create this deck curriculum about colors. So I'll just put Arabic colors. And then I can put save there. Now, you can just press create card here. And then either add the English on the front. So that's the first thing you're going to see. Or the Arabic. So let's add the English. Let's say red. Okay, then I would write the Arabic here, or take a picture of my notes and then put it in here by pressing this, the picture icon just there. Or you can even make a voice recording here with the mic icon. It depends on what you want, So let me write this now. Ahmar. So that's red in Arabic. So once that's done, I can preview it. Okay, so this is what I would see. And then once I click on it, this is what I would see. Press save. Now I can go to this deck. I can press review. Then I can click here. And then I can rate it on how easy it was. If it was very easy, I can press easy here. And then basically Anki will remind me when to study or come back to this word. That is how you use Anki. I hope this helped, inshallah. So now the final topic is conversations. And I've spoken about this a little bit previously, but I am working on a community where people can speak with other Muslims. It will have a house group system, so you won't feel so overwhelmed upon joining, and you'll have a close-knit community for brothers and sisters, in which we can all cover a topic for a week. And then inshallah, once we cover that topic, we can practice with each other. So for example, we cover the topic of restaurants. So then we would all practice restaurants, and I'll try and get someone who knows this language even better than me that can watch us and make sure that we are practicing it correctly. Because a curriculum is important, but having the curriculum but not speaking with anyone, that just kind of defeats the entire point of it. Because you're learning the language, obviously, to understand the Quran, but you also want to gain that side benefit of being able to speak it, because that's how you speak to the scholars. That's how you understand what they're saying. That's how you can navigate yourself into seeking knowledge in different institutions that teach in Arabic. So another story, which is quite crazy, is when I was 14, I used to be a part of this Roblox community server, and a lot of people were speaking Portuguese in that server. And somehow I had managed to pick up a lot of words and a lot of vocabulary, to the point where in 3 months I could kind of get my way around and not speak fluently, but I could understand the gist of what's going on. I could kind of speak and get what I want by being in that community. And I had learned a lot of phrases and a lot of words just by speaking with these people. The conversational words that I'm talking about are words like he, they, she, there, where, I am, he is, she is. Just these small words that just add up. Because once you can pile and you can recall these words out of thin air, that's when you can communicate with people. That's when you can start holding a conversation. Because if you just learn words for example, food, you just learn the word ta'am, yashrabu. You learn all of these words that are just related to food. You aren't going to be able to hold a conversation. Once you start learning words like walakin, but slash however, you start learning words like كيف حالك, how are you? أنا بخير, لا بأس, alhamdulillah. Just basic words that can carry a conversation. ماذا تفعل اليوم? What are you doing today? Just basic words, just very easy, non-complicated words. That's when you can start holding a conversation and being able to speak with people. Now, the final thing that I want to get across is the underestimating of the power of dua. I think too many people are saying it's me, my work. I did all this work and I learned Arabic because I'm good. But it's not you. Allah teaches people. Allah gives knowledge. You aren't the one who has learnt this through your own efforts. Allah has given you the foundation. You may not know Arabic at this point, but either way you are blessed. Why am I saying that? Because you have internet, you have the resources, you have the brain capacity. Yes, you can learn it. I don't care if you have the millionth excuse on the planet. If you take that path, if you are sincere and you make dua before embarking on this path, whilst on this path, and even once you've learned the Arabic language, you'll start to see things become easier for you. Your memorization will become easy. So obviously, if you are interested in the community that I am going to be working on, and inshallah, hopefully will be out soon, then definitely subscribe to the newsletter that I have in the description. And with that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.